All right, confession time. Uh, it has come to the attention of some of the people that I have been instructing and helping in our workshops that Daniel, left a series unfinished about 10 or so years ago. Now, this series was really my first major foray into writing a while ago. Um, eh, just to kind of give a little heads up, this is going to be very raw, by the way. The way this is going to go, kind of guerrilla style. Anyway, so I began my creative career helping others. I had a friend who was getting a degree in writing for musical theater, asked me to help with a project. I really enjoyed doing that. And then I wanted to do more projects, and I ended up just basically doing them myself because at that time my friend wasn't really in a position to collaborate. And so I just started doing my own thing in theater, put up some shows locally, got some good reviews in the press and some acknowledgement, local press and all of that. So that was great. And then I ended up writing a short piece that was a sci-fi themed story. It was a 10-minute show. Again, went over well. There were various directors that were vying for the ability to direct that piece and all of that. So that was a lot of fun. But what happened was, as a result of that, people are like, well, you need to continue this story because after that 10-minute conversation of that play, we want to know what happens next. There are implications. And so I kind of stumbled my way into this interesting scenario, this world building situation. And when I thought about what I had created, because I created a world, I call it Divergent means Fantastic Four. At least that's what I did at the time. But the idea is that people could have a procedure done, and there are varying results as to what can occur. You can end up flying. You can end up uh, being able to eat anything you want, or squeeze into a small space. It's basically all based on things that can occur in nature. So nothing is super bizarre, but it's obviously things humans can't do, and it's fun and there is a silliness to it. This isn't like hard sci-fi or anything like that in any stretch of the imagination. But anyway, I obviously couldn't do any of that on the stage. Maybe I could have done it in some creative way, but I just didn't make sense. And so I started off writing a book. Now, at that time, I had written a lot of fan fiction, and I had helped others write stories and things like that. I was on the committee to read a lot of plays, and I was workshopping plays with others and giving feedback, and people were finding a lot of my insight helpful for that. But I hadn't really done much in the written prose world so much at that time. So it was a bold thing. My wife, English teacher, was like, "No, you can do it. You're a good writer. You know stories really well. You're always so analytical about things." So anyway, so I just immersed myself into learning how to write. I found every podcast, read every book, any free online learning. I even took some creative writings in college that at that time as my elective. Um, I was going for a business degree at that time, but I ended up taking some extra classes anyway. And so I like just went full-fledged, let's do the thing, right? So at the end of it, I had a book. And then I tried to shop it around. I was like, well, I don't want to have to like figure out how to market this thing and all of that. I'm gonna see if I can go trad. Well, I mean, I did have some success in getting attention. I sent it out to some agents. I particularly had a great moment where I pitched it to an agent in person, and she asked for the full manuscript, so that was really cool. She loved the pitch, she loved the concept, but she was concerned that the piece was too dystopian. She was like, we've had a glut of dystopia right now, and really, it wasn't my intention to try to mimic Hunger Games. I know I said meets Divergent, but I really wasn't thinking so dystopian with that. I was thinking more of how Divergent plays upon the fact that the person you become as an adult is somewhat kind of thrust upon you, and you end up meeting your tribes and meeting your factions and things like that. And so I and so I think that when I was getting some positive response from the creative world, one of the reasons why I was never officially picked up was because uh, it was just bad timing. There was a glut of dystopia, and they're like, we don't need more of this right now. The market is softening. We really want more optimistic stuff, and that's what the agent was looking for. Uh, and again, I don't really think of the piece as that dystopian, but it's not, you know, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic or something. I don't know if it was quite that level, but it's not quite that level of positivity exactly. It's more melancholy than that. Anyway, so I just decided, you know what? I'm just gonna pull the trigger. I've spent all this time on it. What do I have to lose? And I ended up self-publishing it. Now, there are pros and cons to the way that I did it, right? I didn't have a lot of money back then to just invest in it. And so I got a editor that was more of a line editor than anything else. I did send it to a few people for kind of developmental edit feedback, beta readers and things like that, but nobody's super professional in a sense. But when I sent it out, I got some pretty good reviews. Nobody hated it, right? There were some people that were kind of mixed, but nobody hated it, and some people absolutely loved it. They just thought it was great. So I'm like, you know what? This is probably good enough to put out there. Not, that's not necessarily the best way of putting things out there. But I didn't know, I didn't have AutoCrit back then. I was new. All right. So anyway, so I put it out there, and yeah, I got pretty good reviews. I joked around earlier this week that on Goodreads, I'm currently rated higher than Twilight. Obviously, it's easier to do when you have a lot less reviews. I'm being a little facetious when I point that out, but it's not the end of the world, right? It certainly didn't go out to just being lambasted. There were issues, copy editing issues, mistakes, the kind of thing that happens when you self-publish something and you don't maybe spend the right amount of money on the professional feedback that you should. Sure. But in general, it went pretty well. I did make a fair amount of money on it. It was profitable. I mean, obviously, I didn't spend much on it at all because I designed my own cover. I, didn't pay the person who did the copy editing all that much because that was the level of service, the rate they were. It was pretty inexpensive. And so, yeah, it was very easy to be profitable. Now you could say, well, what about all the time you spend into it? Even then, it wasn't awful. It wasn't awful. It wasn't like I could replace my job, but I saw some potential. So anyway, so I kept going and I wrote book two, and that came out. It got much better reviews, much fewer readers, which is typical. You expect a drop off, right? And that does beg the question of how much should I have made the first one better? Because perhaps people were dropping off because they're like, okay, it's all right, but I don't want to keep going. Maybe. And then the third book came out, got even better reviews, but even smaller audience. And so essentially, I kind of found a core group of people. But at that time, I was just getting very discouraged. And it wasn't even just because of the money or something like that. I was just feeling very imposter syndrome. I'm like, kind of, what am I doing? I'm just putting this stuff out there. Is this really good enough? Sure, it's getting kind of good reviews, but angst, angst, angst. Anyway, so that was a while ago. In the meantime, I have spent a lot of time and effort helping others. I really do think of myself in many ways as more of an analyzer than a creator, although I certainly love creating. It's a lot of fun, but I do think I'm probably more talented at analyzing other people's works than creating my own. I'm willing to admit that. I joke around. It's like, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, right? As far as I know, they never made a movie, but they're very good at analyzing movies, right? It is a different skill set. And there's certainly plenty of famous internet pundits that do reaction videos or, you know, um, exposés on things. I don't want to name names, but because I'm not trying to shame them, but they do a fun job of skewering, of satiring, of commenting on other people's works, and that's great. And then they've tried to create their own original pieces, and they're not watchable. They're awful because it is a different skill set. Now, I don't think I'm that bad. I don't think I certainly don't think I'm unreadable. Again, reviewed better than Twilight, right? However, just gonna keep pointing that out. It's okay. You can go and hate review my book now. It's fine. I give you permission. Although, please, hopefully you don't feel like that. But like, if I bring on the floodgates of all the Twihards that are like, "How dare you say that?" It's okay. I brought it on myself. It's fine. Anyway, but yeah. So, but I do want to get back into it, and one of the reasons I want to get back into it is because of all of you. All of you have told me, "Wow, Daniel, what kind of loser were?" And not like this, but what kind of loser were you to create this whole series and then leave the audience in a lurch? I mean, it's a bad cliffhanger that takes place in book 3. It's rough. It was going to be my catching fire, as it were. It was the penultimate book. Book 4 is supposed to be the end, and generally in a series, you write a cliffhanger at the end of book 3, and I sure did. And I never finished it. Now, I know sometimes the reviews, I think some reviews even acknowledge that, and it's probably hurting people from wanting to read it in the first place. Can't blame them because why do you want to read something that's not finished? So, anyway, there's a lot going into this whole video series, right? And it's really because of all of you, so you can blame yourself. No, it's all of the people in the AutoCrit community that just like they do for everybody. They pushed me as an artist. They've encouraged me. You know what, Daniel? Finish it. Get it done. Move, let's see it. Let's see it on the page. And in some ways it's relieving and it's inspiring and it's awesome because I have all of you cheering for me. On the other hand, it's kind of scary because here I am, somebody who's come out and I've been giving advice and I've been analyzing things. And so, the last thing I want to do is release something and everyone's like, "Oh, well, he doesn't really know what he's doing, right?" So the pressure's on, so to speak. You're about to watch somebody do trapeze acrobats without a net because I am putting my flag in the ground. I want book 4 to be out by the beginning of next year. And you're like, "Whoa, that's very aggressive." It is, but this is what I want to do. I want to get this project done. So part of this is going to be showing how now with all these wonderful tools and AutoCrit, like I can actually make my work a whole lot better. And so the first step is going to be to actually go back through because I don't even remember exactly what happens in those first 3 books. We've got to go back first those first 3 books. Now, part of my writing process is I tend to be a very extensive outliner. Like, I love outlining. I love planning. Planning, planning, planning. It gets to the point that when I write my book, it often feels a bit anticlimactic, as it were. At least it might for other people. But I know I have a pretty strong sense of everything that's going to happen. In the major sense of the word. But I don't have an outline for book 4 because it's gone. I don't have my story Bible for the whole series. It's gone. It currently is on a laptop that was dropped in a parking lot on a way to a musical rehearsal and has hit the dust. And I believe the hard drive was cracked. I don't know. I haven't tried to recover it. I know that tends to be very expensive. As far as I know, it's gone. And you could say, well, why didn't you upload it on the cloud? Remember, this was a long time. I know there were clouds back then. Fair enough. I'm going to say it was a long time ago when we didn't have cloud. No, we did have clouds. But no, I wasn't in that kind of attitude then, right? I was a little more lackadaisical. And I didn't have AutoCrit. AutoCrit would have auto-saved everything for me. It's so sad. Anyway, so I told you this is gonna be raw. So anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, AutoCrit. Yes. So now I get to do all of this in AutoCrit. So I'm gonna rebuild the kind of thing that I should have had in AutoCrit. I should have had a story Bible. I should have had all my notes in there. I needed to evaluate my books. So we're going to start by going through what I have now, right? The state of things, right? I know I have 3 books. The first book probably needs the most polishing of the three, but I don't know. I really don't remember the third book much at all, and I don't know if that's a bad thing or if I'm going to be really impressed with myself. We're going to find out. I remember certain things about it, but I remember the first book a lot because I spent so much time on it, and I was just like in that book, and I like lived and breathed that book for so long. And I also have used it quite a bit in AutoCrit for demonstration purposes. The second book, not as much, and the third book, here's the kicker, I don't even have the third book. I published it on Amazon, and the original was lost. So I don't even have that. I'm gonna have to find a way to get it off of Kindle into a form I can edit. So that's gonna be fun. Um, I'm telling you, it's a crazy situation, but I'm here for you. You asked for it. This is the content you are looking for. So, first step is going to be to read the first book again. I haven't read it in a really long time, so I thought it would be fun for me to just kind of read it, and as I have thoughts, I will be commenting on it for myself. Maybe I'll share some of that with you because I think you might find it fun. You know, you get to see me comment on other people's books. What about me commenting on myself? And then, of course, I'm going to have to be writing down notes and things like that. Uh, but actually, I'm going to take a step back. Before I even read it, I'm going to run it through the AutoCrit story analyzer because it's going to give me some insight as to what I should even be looking for as I read these various chapters. So I'll do the chapter analysis and I'll do the overall analysis, and then I'm going to go back to chapter analysis to go through each chapter. All right, so are we ready? Let's go. So I started looking at my document. I know I was only supposed to read before I do my analyzer, but it's a good thing I did because I realized this is not my final version. Now, this is another thing that can I'm like, this is not right. There's some names that are different. So now I had to go searching around for the actual version. But there's a good news. So you know how I was talking about that broken laptop? All right. I still don't have my story Bible, but I think I found book 3 now. So yay, I don't have to try to extrapolate it from Amazon. And I did in fact find the final version. So, okay, so I have my actual document now. I needed to go through, I had to delete the front matter of it. I needed to delete the back matter of it. I just want the text itself. I didn't want to bog down the system with all that nonsense. Um, Eventually, I'm going to probably reformat the whole thing because the formatting wasn't particularly great either. But I'm not worried about that right now. I'm just going to go to the fiction analyzer and we're going to start this puppy and we're going to figure out what's going on. So, start analyzing. Let's see what the results show. All right, so analysis done. Time to see what's under the hood. By the way, I guess I should say spoiler alert if any of you want to read this book and not know what's going on. I wouldn't necessarily suggest watching this video right now. Currently, you could go out and get the current version. I, of course, am going to be revising it in just a bit. I'm not going to be selling it though as a new thing. I'll just do it's not like that gonna I hopefully it won't be that big of a change that it'll be like a second edition and people need to buy. I'll just put it in there and people can download the new file if they want. And so yeah, I mean if you wanted to see it in its current form, I suppose you can. I'll put the link below in the description. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I know that for a lot of you, this is about watching somebody with the process. So that's great. All right. Anyway, so I did all my chapter analysis in the story analyzer. Of course, it identified my chapters perfectly. So all I do was hit this big button. I already did that. And then I hit the big button for overall, and I'm hitting the button right now for character. And so I am learning about those character arcs. Really looking forward to that. So while that's coming in, we're going to go back to overall. I'm going to start with the overall, and then we're going to go through chapter by chapter. So let's see what it says. So one thing immediately that I really like is this, and this was intentional. As much as I'm gonna somewhat critique myself for my past self's mistakes. I did have a sense of what I was doing, right? And so around chapter 8 is a big inciting incident sort of situation. That's on purpose. 16 and 18, yep, makes sense. That's where it starts to escalate. The last chapter is 19. So I have a nice little range of big events, so that's good. So one thing it's saying is the global impact of the technology on societies outside her environment is a possibility. This is true, but this is something I'm going to do in the later books. So I don't disagree with it that it's a possibility for something to do. But I didn't do it intentionally in this book, and I'm not going to change that. A faction opposing both views. Again, this is something that actually does happen later on in the series. So thank you, Story Analyzer, but I'm not going to do it just yet. And this Catalyst's existence becomes widely known is actually the whole premise of the second book. So this is great. Now you could say, hopefully, I haven't held back too much on conflicts. I don't think so. I think I got a lot of conflicts going on. We're going to see that as we go through the conflict through line when we go chapter by chapter, but I'm not too worried about it. Instead, I honestly am just like, thanks, Story Analyzer, for telling me I did a great job with my sequel. So we're going to keep going. I always love it when, people tell you you're right. So it says 10 and 11 breaking into facilities. The early chapters have been better for foreshadowing these events or smoother plots. So I can see where that could be an issue. So we're going to look at that. This it didn't like the twist. Yes, there is a twist about Jax. Sorry, spoiler alert. Told you if you wanted to not know. Uh, I'm going to double check that as I read it, but I don't mind if it's rather out of the blue because I don't think it hurts anything if it feels out of the blue. Um, it says an impactful yet believable a twist if I provide hints. Again, I'll see. I think it's fine. I don't know if I agree with this. Shelley could have more inner turmoil. I'm going to take a look at that. Shelley was a character that I explored with a lot more depth in the sequels than I kind of initially intended. Became a lot more interesting to me than I expected. So, yeah, I'm going to take a look at that. Now, I have the overall timeline analysis. I don't really need to look at that right now. That is literally everything going on in the story. I'm going to skip through this for now. I mean, it's great to have. It's great to have like a whole timeline of everything. But I'm not too worried about it just yet. We'll go back to that. Yeah, okay. So this is all fairly true as well, and I think this is all right. It's giving me suggestions on how to get the theme more potent. I don't know if I want it to be that heavy-handed. I think it's fine because it says it's evidence through things and I can make it more prominent. I'm not sure if I want to make it more prominent in this book. I think I'm okay with that. And it says it's young adult science fiction dystopia. Yeah, again, that really wasn't my intention with this. I could see why that it gets there. It is a gloomy world. I wouldn't really call it a dystopia, though. So it's possible that I want to revise this, or maybe I should lean more into it, or maybe I'm okay with that. Um, my goal in it was to talk about a world that was fairly oppressive, but again, it's not really a dystopia. It's just a not very it's kind of messed up world. So I went ahead and refreshed it because I'm going to get into a deeper dive on this. Um, so it says chapter 15 is interpersonal relationships and it doesn't have sci fi elements. So it could have more explicit dynamics about discrimination of abilities. That's actually not a bad idea. I should think about that as I go through it. Introduce an event that ties to back shore. Um, and it says in chapter 19, uh, it doesn't really just work on emotional negotiation. See, I don't mind that. It is an emotional negotiation. Chapter 19 is a standoff, and the protagonist ends up winning because of basically emotional blackmail. I don't mind that being a non-scientific answer because Rose is not supposed to be some major scientist. She's really, just supposed to be kind of a relatable everyday person. So I think that's fine. Yeah, no, I think that's okay. I mean, chapter 15, I think it's got a point. That's my high school party scene. And it might skew a little too social and not quite sci-fi enough. It's worth looking at as we go through the chapters, which we'll do in a second. I'm going to go quickly through this timeline and I'm going to see how this timeline sounds to me and see whether or not I'm going to, consider different things in the chapters again as I go through the chapters. And actually, I'll go through characters in just a bit as well. Rose registers. Like I said, I didn't think this book was like complete garbage or something. I was pretty happy with its plot. I think actually a lot more than developmental editing side, it's going to be more of a line editing polish that I'm going to do through AutoCrit through the summary report and things like that. That will probably be the next episode because this is going to be developmental editing things that I'm going through first. And then between now and the next time, I'll be doing finishing up that, making sure that I like my plot. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I like my plot fairly well. But I am going to do a lot of time probably polishing up the prose because I've gotten a lot pickier over the years. All right. Costume, Mr. Quirk's lecture. Yeah. All right. So I went through the timeline just now. I'm quite happy with how it looks. So I feel at this point I'm going to be going through chapter by chapter. And again, what I'm going to be doing now is basically developmental edit. So the first thing I'm looking out for are the plot beats and things and things like that. Um yeah, I'm pretty happy with how the plot unfolds. I mean, while I could potentially do things differently, I think for now, especially with where I am in this project, it really doesn't make sense to go through and try to finagle too much. I'm gonna believe in myself, believe in my former self, and like I said, what I'm gonna go through is I'm gonna see if I'm making the scenes as powerful as possible with the content, and then I will get to actual line editing in a little bit. So let's go through chapter by chapter. I was about to dive into chapters and I remembered, oh wait, I haven't looked at the character analysis. Getting ahead of myself. So yeah, so I want to look at the character analysis now and get a sense of what it says. This is correct. Makes it sound really nice too. Her flaws lies in mistrust, both in others' intentions, correct, and within herself. It sometimes prevents Rose from accepting help. This is correct. There are moments when this flaw could be heightened for dramatic effect, particularly during interactions with characters like Elliot or Zach, where trust issues could further complicate relationships. This is something I'm going to look out for. I think this is true. I think the idea that you don't trust very easily, I think I could bring that out more. And I appreciate that feedback here. She's initially overwhelmed by certainty and fear, and then she ends up embracing herself. And the pivotal scene is chapter 18. This is correct. And it says there's a little bit with inconsistencies. I'm actually going to take a little bit of a deeper dive on this one because I'm kind of curious to see what it says. In terms of while it's doing that, the character complement is exactly what I would have expected because the antagonist is Maddox, makes sense. Relationship characters, Elliot, makes sense. Distracting character, Shelley, yep. Support is Aaron. Opposition, it says government agents. I really think Mr. Roberts is the personification of that. So maybe I need to make this a bit stronger so it'd pick it up. In terms of emotion and reason, it fluctuates. I really wanted Shelly to be emotion and Aaron to be reason or even Zach to be emotion. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's just fluctuating. So I may want to bring that up a little bit more. And particularly it says Aaron feels underutilized plot wise. So he could be used more. So maybe I can bring that up because he's supposed to be that reason character. I'm going to take a look at opportunities of maybe giving him a bit more to do along the way. He is kind of the along for the ride person. I get it, but I think he could be more than that. All right, so we're going to go back to the inconsistencies. The decision to confront Matic alone and the cell. Yeah, these are big pivots for this character, right? Um, I think it's okay because that's on purpose. And then reluctance versus action. Again, these are all big changes that are meant to be arcs, but I do want to look at them. 18, 19, that's the ending. That's the key moment where the character makes some motions. I'm going to need to ask myself as I go through, did I really earn those moments? Or did I just say, well, that's what the character needs to do because it hits my little checklist, right, in my head and like character growth and all that? Or did I actually land it? I'm going to ask myself that question for sure. Yeah, it says that it's understandable the trust issues could develop. There are inconsistencies on how quickly Rose oscillates between trusting characters deep enough to engage in risky missions and then questioning their moments almost immediately without new evidence. So, yeah, I need to look at that. The trust issues, it sounds like, there's certain things in her character that I might be requiring of her again because the plot dictates it in a way that I'm not earning. So, I need to look out for that as I'm reading through. I'm just gonna do the character archetypes once again because if it's not finding clear personalities, that is a little bit alarming for me, and I want to do it again, and I want to see how much things switch. Because it's not an exact science; it is a little subjective, but I would like it to be pretty steady. So we're gonna see whether or not at least my antagonist and my relationship character and my distraction character stay the same. Hopefully, do they do? Okay, so we got a little bit more of depth because I went into a deeper form here. Okay, and now we have emotion being Zach, so that's good. I wanted Zach to be emotion. I really don't want. You could argue that Mr. Roberts is reason. I really want to think of him as opposition, and Jax being opposition actually makes a fair amount of sense. Actually, I'm okay with that. Um, Mr. Roberts is sort of a foil. He's an annoying foil that he, I really should figure out maybe more who he is. Like, he's like the ninth archetype, as it were, because that's the last character. Like, other than that, I have those 8 characters, and they're all like lined up really nicely. So I guess making him reason sort of makes sense, but to me, he doesn't really represent reason. He represents like he's sort of like a distraction character that isn't Shelley because he's not in the book the whole time. So he's like a foil distraction character. Okay, well, I need to think about that for sure. That's something for me to consider, but I do like these results better. So the main thing for the synopsis, I don't need to view what happens and the characters and all of that because I know that. Um, so this is pretty strong already. I think that's fine. So the conflicts. I'm just going to double check them. Conflict between Rose and her mother, conflict between Aaron and Shelley, conflict between Rose's desire for individuality, a conflict between Zach's distrust of the government. Okay, fair enough. And now characters are fine. This is fine. All right, so let's look at contradictions. This could be something that could be a problem. Rose mentions that she hasn't told her mom about not getting zapped, yet later it is revealed that Rose's dad already knew and supported her decision. That's fine because Rose's mom and Rose's dad are nowhere near each other. Her dad is in jail, so it's okay. Aaron makes a comment about how easy it is for guys to ask girls out, but then he struggles revealing his own feelings towards somebody. This is not a problem, it's on purpose. It's a joke. Rose expresses, I mean, maybe I should have her point that out. So I'll look at that when I look at the example. Rose expresses doubts and fears about going through with GMO technology throughout the chapter, but at times, yes, that's on purpose. All right, foreshadowing. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this out. I'm going to start making some notes because I need to have some things in my head. Rose's trust issues, Aaron's ability. Yeah, I don't need this to be bulleted. Rose's trust issues, Aaron's ability to reason. These are just basic things. Shelley's general attitude. Take a look at it. Mr. Roberts, his role in the story. Okay, I'm gonna hit save. Okay, and then I can go back to the fiction analyzer and I can keep going. All right, where was I? These are all true, so this is good. Okay, so it looks like chapter 1 is in pretty good shape. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my notes now, and I'm going to read chapter 1. This is kind of scary. Here I go. Dun dun dun. Reading chapter 1. And as I have comments, I might stop and yeah, I'm not going to don't worry. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch as I read. I mean, now one thing I want to say is immediately I'm tempted to like go through and adjust text. Remember, this is not the goal of this edit. This is a developmental edit. I need to be looking at my text and figuring out what's wrong from a plot standpoint. We're not looking at word choice right now. Not looking at word choice right now, Daniel. Just remember that. See, I tell myself this and I tell my students this. Now I got to do it. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna add something here because I'm gonna try to make Aaron more of a reason person. So I want to distinguish his voice from Rose a little bit. And I'm just trying to add some stuff to give Aaron a little bit more of a reason thing. Okay, so I'm not concerned with this note, so I can go ahead and delete it. Bye bye. Okay. Now, something I noticed as I went in here is it started to drop into dialogue and it was just like forth, back, forth, back, forth. And I really wanted to keep things going. It's possible that I could do a little bit more world building, more blocking, things like that. I'm not concerned with that right now in the developmental edit, but I'm going to write a note to remind myself next edit, consider um, choreography, world building, interaction with the environment, etc. I'm going to just save that. That's not something I'm looking for right now. Again, I'm thinking of characters right now, not some of these other details. Okay, I made it to chapter 2. So let's go back. Let's go back and look at chapter 2 over here. Okay. So I'm very pleased with this. So I'm just going to go through a character polish here. It's funny when I make myself laugh because I don't know this book well enough that I don't remember all the jokes. And it's really important. It's really funny. It's hard to say this without sounding well, whatever. I'm just gonna say it. I'm actually really enjoying this. Like, this is better than I remembered or might have thought. I mean, sometimes when you have a distance and you come back to a work, you're kind of down on yourself and beating yourself up, but I'm actually really liking this. I don't know how much polishing I'm gonna want to do when I get to the line editing stage. Right now, the characterizations are really strong. Of course, I'm only on chapter 2, so we'll see. I know that chapters 15 through 19 are probably going to be more the problem children. So let's see how it goes. All right, so I'm at a point where I have a idea that I want to convey some emotion, and I'm not sure what I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do change the mood. Move this over. Yeah, so where your insertion point is, you can get some ideas, and it'll give you an idea for how to convey that. So I'm going to go with fearful, anxious, worried. I'm going to say. I don't know, maybe it's more insecure, threatened, nervous. Yeah, I'm going to say nervous. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so I have cold sweat despite the room being warm. I like that. I like that. Yeah, I like that actually. I'm gonna go the other way with it. I'm gonna say that she's sweating even though it's a very air-conditioned room. All right, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go to chapter 3. Again, We're going to be looking at some characterizations, some plot inconsistencies. Okay, so I got my notes. Gonna shrink this down. I know it's gonna go off of your screen. My screen's wider. And yeah, time for chapter 3. Let's go. Okay, this isn't a character thing, but I'm feeling like this was overly rushed. So I am going to create a bookmark here. Call this pacing. I'm gonna select this so that I know I need to consider that sort of stuff. So that's good. Close and done. Okay, so I discovered in chapter 3 there was something brought up that I had forgotten entirely was even part of this book. So I'm going to add a new noteboard and I'm going to say things for book 4 because I didn't remember this unanswered question. So the question is what happened to Rose's aunts? And yeah, I'm not sure what happened to Rose's aunt. I'm not sure if Rose's aunt is ever mentioned again. We're gonna find out together as we reread this series. So, if not, book 4. I brought it up in book 1. Might as well pay that off, right? Don't want to leave free money on the ground. That's for sure. All right, I understand why it was confused about the dog, because there was some powers going on, so we're all good on that. So, yeah, overall, not a lot of issues. Chapter 3 out of the way. All right, so at this point, I'm just gonna run through all of the rest of these chapters. I'm giving you some insight into my process here. Again, I'm looking at characterization right now. Once I finish all of those, I'll have another little update. Say in general, I am noticing that I could have possibly spent some more time on setting. So I'm just going to write a note to myself that I need a setting sort of situation. I mean, that's pretty much with the interaction with the environment. But yeah, it's just something I want to. It's something I want to consider. I want to consider the interaction with the environment, the setting. I feel like I went a little white roomy. I was worried about making sure the foreground action was going, and there are just times that I'm like, could probably describe a little bit more where we are. So that's something I'm going to do a little bit later. All right, I've made it about halfway through my character analysis so far. I'm actually very happy with things. I'm glad that I had that insight from the analyzer for a few characters because I do agree, specifically Aaron, I've been trying to zero in on him. I think it's going to come into more into play a little bit later. I also agreed because it pointed out like Shelley kind of turned on a dime, and I can see where it comes across like that, and so I was able to adjust some things as well for that character. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy with the characters, very happy with the plot. I'm only halfway through, so we're going to see what happens with developmental editing as we continue this project. I'll have another update soon for you. So please like and subscribe and hit the bell as we go through this process. It's going to be really fun and interesting. I can say, I already mentioned this earlier, but like the settings and the action and things like that, yeah, I lean really heavy towards dialogue. Really heavy towards dialogue. And I think that's because I came from the theatrical world. I also, kind of talk a lot. But I came from the theatrical world, and so I was really comfortable with writing conversations and back forth, back forth, back forth. And so there are a few scenes I'm like, whoa, there's like nothing. It's just dialogue, 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 dialogue. It's very easy to read. It moves quickly, but I do wonder if I need some more action. Sometimes it gets white roomy. So that's going to be my next edit is going to be in terms of the content, for this developmental edit. I'm going to be looking at that and the setting and the things like that. And then I will start moving into the line editing. And, I will be looking at the reports because right now I'm not seeing a whole lot I want to adjust. So I'm assuming, although I will say that the wording feels a little bit flat at times and a little bit simplistic. And so I'm really excited to see what all the line editing reports and AutoCrit tell me about that, because I imagine I'll have some insights as to why it feels that way a little bit more than I do now. So anyway, this will wrap up this little episode here. I know it's kind of a casual show, but I certainly hope you're enjoying it. If you are enjoying it, please comment below. Please let us know, because we can do more things like this if that's what you want to see. Uh, and that's what we rely on. We're trying to do this for you. While I definitely am doing this project for me, I'm sharing this for you. So if you're enjoying it, or if there's anything we can adjust about this is kind of a brand new foray into this. I've never done this before. Let me know. All right. Well, I'll see you around. Bye, everybody.